We also work together on an openEHR specification to try to adapt the Smart on Fire or Smart App Launcher specification to openEHR. It's a work that Sidharth started about a year and a half ago, I think, with his Medblocks company. And in the last few months, we work hard together to try to say what we need from openEHR perspective. So what we miss in a fire specification, what we need to add in order to have also openEHR support. So Sidharth will present the results of those specifications. So he also implemented the whole flow. And currently the specifications are in a draft version. So if you have any contribution or if you think anything is missing, you might want to review it, you welcome your feedback. Meanwhile, just curious, how many from you are familiar with the Smart App Launcher or Smart on Fire specification? Or okay, quite a few. So then we're going to have a nice audience.
Yeah. Okay. So this is my parents' hospital in India. They're both ophthalmologists and they have their own eye hospital. It's called Aarti Eye Hospital. And when I finished my medical school and I told them that I'm not going to become a doctor, I'm interested in health informatics and IT, they're like, okay. We don't really understand what you're doing. We don't know what this openEHR is. We don't know what fire is. But okay, we have an EMR in our hospital. We don't really like it right now. It's been developed by this one single developer about 10 years ago. Can you help us? Can you make things better for us? So these are my parents. And you can see the disappointment in my father's face there. But so we actually started on the journey to revamp the whole system. And this is, you get like 500 patients a day in this hospital. So it's a proper tertiary care hospital, do surgery, OPD for anything related to ophthalmology. We took Airbase actually. We took Airbase as the base CDR. I wanted to do it on top of openEHR. I wanted to use the best practices in the industry and actually build something. And I was searching for an application that runs on top of openEHR, and I wanted an ophthalmology application that I can just take and extend for our use case. But I found none. There was no ophthalmology app that was just available. And so we had to re-engineer exactly what was already available and build it from scratch, right? And we built it all from scratch. But to this day, we have not entirely migrated away from the old system because the developer won't give us access to the database. So the old developer is still, like he's not cooperative. He doesn't want to give access to the old database. So we are partially still on that system. We are partially using this new system, and we built that application on top of, we used Medblocks UI, we used Airbase, and we built this application workflow for ophthalmology. Now, a week ago, I think I had a conversation with my dad, and he finally told me, like, I think I might be understanding what you mean by separate the data from the application, because I don't want to be held hostage by this other developer who's not giving us access to our data. I don't want to move from developer to developer or vendor to vendor and just keep losing my data. He intrinsically understood that. And he knows nothing about, he still asks for help when he wants something on WhatsApp. So he intrinsically understood the need for data platforms and why data platforms are needed. So, but here's the problem. Now you have data platforms, you have people like Vita Group, Airbase working on data platforms, you have Better, and you have all of these people here doing data platforms, right? But when you actually go to a customer, when you go to somebody like my parents who are ophthalmologists and they want a working piece of software, what do we tell them? We have a form builder, you can configure it, you can do what you want. We can model your requirement using our form builder, right? But what I realized is that the amount of time and effort it took us to actually build that ophthalmology application, we thought it would take us a month. It took us more than 6 months to just get the basic workflow going. And it is always it's not the obvious things. If you want to perfect your workflow, and again, I will go with a vendor who's done ophthalmology thousands of times and who knows the workflow inside and out, rather than somebody. And again, like form builders are great. You can have multiple use cases quickly. But then as soon as you get past that initial phase of it does what it can do, but then I need more, it quickly starts to break down. So I would always choose an application or a vendor who has done that particular specialty over somebody who says, I've done thousands of use cases using my form builder, please build it out. Now, this is the other problem. Like, you have these people who can build really good apps, but these people need a platform. And the platform people are going to need these developers. So it becomes this sort of a chicken and egg problem. How do you get application developers? And how do you get these apps? And how do you get them on the data platform? Right? So I actually noticed that it's not really a chicken and egg problem, because we have precedent here. So this is the Epic App Orchard. And today we have close to 600 different Smart on Fire apps. Right, and I've gone through this story multiple times, like how did it get here? And every single day almost, like at Medblocks, we also help people with building Smart on Fire applications. We put out a lot of content on YouTube as well. Every single day we get a request, can you help us build a Smart on Fire application on top of Epic? Right? Once in 6 months I get that request for Airbase or openEHR. So how did this happen? How did we get here? Right? So Smart started out as a standard. It was within a niche community, and they had today they have 42 open source applications, and it was all theoretically put down in a paper how Smart works, so on. And then the government decided that by 2023, every single EHR in the US needs to be compliant with Smart on Fire if they are in the healthcare space, right? So they basically just kicked every EHR until they were compliant with this protocol. And you see this number. So it's not a chicken and egg problem. You need the data platform first. And you need the data platform first, and the apps will come, right? So use the data platform, have it there, and as soon as you have the regulation and you have something that pushes people to use some protocol, the apps will come. Right, that's what I believe in. And in fact, we need to break down what an app ecosystem really needs. Right? So you need a vendor-neutral API. You need some sort of an authorization or permission model. You need a distribution format. Okay? So let's take, for example, Android. You have the Android vendor-neutral system APIs. You have the authorization model. Pretty sure you've seen that in apps when you install them. And the distribution format is an APK. You can also download it through the Play Store. You have an APK file that you can distribute. Now, web apps also have a very good application model where you have HTML, CSS, JavaScript that runs on any vendor-neutral browser, and it can run with multiple browsers. You have OAuth 2 as the standard for authenticating and authorizing today. And the distribution format is just the URL. And what did Smart on Fire do? The vendor-neutral API is the Fire APIs, and the authorization model is Smart, which is just a slight extension on top of OAuth 2 to make it work for the clinical context. And the distribution format is again a URL. You pass an app as a URL. So when you say, I have an application ready, all you need to give someone is a URL. So what essentially you're doing is you're moving trust So instead of having the trust between people, which is far, you move it to the protocol. You move it to the platform and the applications. So these applications and the platform can work without people being involved and without these people explicitly agreeing on how to really make their apps work together. So we published the Smart on openEHR spec on 8th October. It's very fresh. It's really fresh so it's very new. And I'll just walk you through how it works, what we are doing here. And Sebastian Iancu has been pivotal to this spec as well. We've been working together on this. So it uses Fire, openEHR, plus other APIs as the vendor-neutral API. So we understand that openEHR today is being used with Fire in a lot of use cases. So I know that Vita Group, for example, they store patient encounters in the Fire server. Better also does that. And a lot of other people are using Fire for non-clinical information because we don't have a better option other than Fire. And openEHR for the clinical data. But we also realize that there is this need for other APIs that might show up, DICOM Web, maybe an object storage. Maybe there are other APIs that we don't know about. So we've made the specification open so that there is an easy way to extend it beyond openEHR Fire to other APIs. It might be your own proprietary APIs that you want applications to use. Authorization model still stays the same. It's exactly the same Smart specification that Smart on Fire uses. We are backwards compatible with Smart on Fire as well. And the distribution format is just the URL. OK, demo time. So Code24 has built an app. And in fact, this was integrated in the past 3 days. So we were able to integrate this in just 3 days because the protocol was already available and we had all of the pieces in place. So Code24 has a patient portal app where the patient can log in and persist information. They'll use the Medblocks clinical data repository, which is based on Airbase, and we have the Smart authentication layer on top. And this will be read by another application developed by the Karolinska University Hospital called the Tip-to-Toe app. So all of this is for rare genetic disease screening. And I'll tell you the use case as I walk you through the application. So first, what happens is Code24 launches from their application. So please note the URL on the top left. I know it's small, but it's important to understand this. So they are launching. They are allowing certain permissions. They're going inside a specific patient. They're selecting a specific patient. And now we are coming back again. Notice the URL. We are coming back again to Code24's application. And this was my network. It's not Code24's fault. But so now we are in the application right now, and we have information about the current patient. We also have a questionnaire that is based on openEHR, and we are using a template. And this is just asking the patient a few personal questions. So this is meant for children with rare genetic disorders, and the practitioner would like to know a little bit more about what they like, what they don't like, just to have the rapport with the patient. So that's what the patient can fill this out, maybe with the help of a guardian or by themselves. So they are filling out tie my shoelaces. I eat delicious food. Yes, I don't know why it's in caps, but it is. And once that's done, they're saving that, and this data gets saved in the clinical data repository of Medblocks. That's a Medblocks CDR. Now we are here in the Medblocks CDR. This is something a practitioner might open. And let's say they just want to create a service request for genetic counseling. We also have some clinical decision support that shows up that prompts them to launch this particular app. So that's CDS hooks. But once they launch the app, the practitioner gets to decide what permission they want to give to the app. And again, the permission screen only comes up once. It doesn't come up all the time. So once they're in here, they can see the exact details that are filled in by the Code24 app through the Medblocks portal into the Karolinska app. So now here they're going through a few data points. So now this is important because these are all HPO codes, and they want to phenotype the patient before they send them for genetic testing it helps them narrow down the genes to test, and it's very helpful for the clinical genetics department. So before they actually send them for genetic counseling, if the practitioner were just able to fill out a few answers, it helps them cut down on a lot of cost and a lot of time later on. So the practitioner submits this form successfully, and form updated successfully. And we just saved the genetic counseling department maybe 2-3 hours of time per patient. And this is a very use case specific app. Like, this is not something any EHR provider would ever want to build themselves. It's a very use case specific app. It works with the protocols that we have, and it can be extended for other use cases. Now, how did this all work? Like a quick walkthrough. I know I'm running out of time. So Code24, Karolinska, they can immediately, all they need is the URL of the clinical data repository. This is in the spec page. You can go search for Smart on openEHR and also read it through. So as soon as they hit the endpoint, they get a discovery response. So this has all the URLs you need to authenticate and access the clinical data repository. So this includes, for example, the FHIR API, the openEHR API, the S3 API, the demographics API, and all of these other APIs. We are making it extendable. And once that's there, they just need to do the authentication, authorization flow according to OAuth 2 and Smart. I think a lot of you already know about Smart, so I'm not going to go into the depths of this. So there are multiple types of launches. We are supporting almost all of the standalone and the EHR embedded launch, the patient and the practitioner launch. I'm leaving out backend launch because it's exactly the same as OAuth 2. There is no new innovation that Smart did on top of it anyway. So this is the scopes part of it, which is really important. So we are also standardizing the scopes that are needed when authorizing. So what are we saying here? So you have multiple compartments. So you can either be in the patient compartment or the practitioner compartment, which is the user compartment here, or the system compartment. And you can restrict permission for a particular app to a specific template. So they can only modify and create compositions of a specific template. You can restrict them to specific AQLs. You can do a lot of these operations. So that's what you see in this screen on the right side. When they get the consent screen, that's what you see. So how do you start adopting? First is specification board. We need to really come up with a conformance testing for actually verifying if somebody is Smart on FHIR compliant, right? And next is definitely going to be procurers and policymakers, because applications will start coming in as soon as you put it in writing that you need to be Smart on FHIR, Smart on openEHR and Smart on FHIR compliant. It's happened before. We've seen proof of this happen in the past. So it needs to work here. And implementers, yes, there are probably going to be RFIs and procurements. If people are seeing this, they might start that. So we are already running this in production. We have all of these apps. We have these patients. We are running this. It's using Airbase. And it's been working great. And that's the number of launches that we've had so far. So some people like to say, like, practitioner first, patient first. I say developer first, and let the practitioners and patients decide, because they have the option to now decide between multiple apps. So thank you. You can find us here as well.
I just wanted to add that we did it in 3 days indeed, just because I wanted to showcase that it's possible 2 vendors to implement different application with the same data source, and yeah, it's just going to work together. I like it. Questions? No?
Good. I think we ran over time anyway. So. Oh, yes. Oh. Yes.
You saved us.
Yeah, we spent some time on still spending some effort on the topic of access control using XACML, and where policies can get quite complex. And so we are sometimes thinking about, okay, what is a way maybe to also give this complexity or flexibility on access control to these kind of client applications, because I think with Smart on FHIR it's a bit limited to certain endpoints, to the services, and not really on the data level. And so it would be interesting to learn about your considerations regarding providing some more fine-grained access control on this API.
Agreed. I think we probably need to refine this a little bit more if we have to add even more fine-grained scopes. Definitely open to hearing that.
Okay, it's not a question, it's more like a, I don't know, observation. I know that in Netherlands there is also interest in extending the specification with nuts. And I don't know exactly on the technical level what that's going to mean, but we're going to probably work in an upcoming period also into trying to do something. So that's relevant for Netherlands.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Okay.